What lived inside Tutankhamun's tomb? 1,000 years, a boy who ruled for less than a decade lay sealed inside a chamber smaller than most modern living rooms. No grand pyramid marked his resting place. No army of statues lined his path. And yet, when that chamber was finally opened, it held more gold, more mystery, and more raw human emotion than any tomb ever found in Egypt. Around 1332 BCE, a 9-year-old boy inherited a kingdom in chaos. His father, Akhenaten, had shattered Egypt's religious order, abandoning the old gods for a single sun disk called the Aten. Temples were closed, priesthoods lost their power. The old world was torn apart in a single generation. Into this fractured kingdom stepped a child. His name at birth was Tutankhamun, living image of Aten. But as advisors around him worked to undo his father's revolution, the boy's name changed too. He became Tutankhamun, living image of Amun, the old god restored. He would rule for roughly 9 years. He would die around the age of 18 or 19, under circumstances historians still argue about today. And in the scramble to bury him quickly, some believe too quickly for a king of his status, something remarkable happened. He was forgotten. Being forgotten should have meant being lost. Instead, it meant being protected. Over the centuries that followed, tomb robbers stripped nearly every royal burial in the Valley of the Kings. Gold was melted down, coffins were torn apart, entire pharaohs vanished into dust and rumor. But Tutankhamun's tomb was small, hastily built, and, crucially, buried under debris from later construction. It disappeared beneath the sand, hidden not by design, but by accident. For over 3,000 years, no one touched it. Then, in November 1922, a British archaeologist named Howard Carter, funded by Lord Carnarvon and running out of money and patience, uncovered a step cut into the rock. Then another. 16 steps down, he found a sealed doorway. He later described peering through a small hole into the darkness beyond, holding up a candle and being asked by Carnarvon what he could see. His answer became one of the most famous lines in the history of archaeology. Wonderful things. What Carter found wasn't just a tomb. It was a time capsule of a young king's entire world crammed into 4 small chambers. The first room, the antechamber, looked less like a burial site and more like a storage room that had exploded with treasure. Golden chariots, dismantled to fit through the doorway, leaned against the walls. Beds shaped like animals, a lion, a cow, a strange hybrid creature, stood stacked on top of each other. Alabaster vases, ebony chests, and statues of the king stood watch over piles of everyday royal life. Sandals, board games, folding stools, even a trumpet that could still be played thousands of years later. This wasn't a room built for the afterlife in the abstract. It was a room built to send a teenage king into eternity with everything he had loved. Beyond a guarded door lay the burial chamber itself. And here, the tomb stopped feeling like an exhibit and started feeling like a secret. 4 gilded shrines, nested inside one another like Russian dolls, filled almost the entire room. Inside the smallest shrine sat a stone sarcophagus. Inside that, 3 coffins, each nested within the last. The final coffin, the one touching the king's body, was made of solid gold. And on the mummified face of the boy king himself rested the object the entire world would come to recognize, the golden death mask, inlaid with lapis lazuli and colored glass, weighing over 10 kilograms of solid gold. It wasn't just a decoration, it was believed to be the very image of the king's soul, meant to protect and preserve his identity for eternity. But it was the small, quiet details that revealed the human being beneath the myth. archaeologists found a simple dried wreath of flowers placed on the second coffin. In a smaller room called the treasury stood a black jackal statue, Anubis, guardian of the dead, watching over the chamber's most sacred objects. Here, Carter found something that stunned even the most experienced Egyptologists: a small wooden box containing 2 tiny coffins, each holding the mummified remains of a stillborn infant. Most historians believe these were Tutankhamun's own daughters, lost before birth. 2 children who never lived long enough to be named, buried beside their father, so they would not be alone in the afterlife. It's a detail that turns ancient Pharaoh into grieving father in the space of a single sentence.
The 4th chamber, the annex, held over 2,000 objects in complete disarray. Wine jars, weapons, food for the afterlife, board games, and baskets of fruit, some so well preserved that seeds inside them could still be identified thousands of years later. Among the more debated finds was an iron dagger resting near the king's body. Remarkable because in Tutankhamun's era, iron was rarer and more precious than gold. Centuries later, scientific analysis suggested the blade may have originated from a meteorite, iron literally fallen from the sky, shaped into a weapon fit for a god king. And still, questions remained. Why was the tomb so small for a pharaoh? Why did his burial appear rushed, some chambers seemingly repurposed from other plans? Why was his name erased from later king lists, as though Egypt itself wanted to forget he had ever ruled? The most likely answer isn't scandal, it's politics. Tutankhamun was tied to his father's failed religious revolution. Erasing him wasn't an insult to the boy. It was an attempt to erase the chaos he was born into. Tutankhamun ruled a fraction of the years that Egypt's great pharaohs did. He built no lasting monuments. He won no legendary wars. By the standards of his own era, he might have been remembered as a minor king, if he was remembered at all. Instead, because his tomb was hidden by accident and untouched by thieves, he became the single most famous pharaoh in human history. Not because of what he did in life, but because of what he carried into death. Every object in that tomb, the golden mask, the trumpet, the wilted flowers, the tiny coffins of unborn daughters, tells the same story from a different angle. A young king caught between 2 worlds, buried with everything his people believed he would need, and forgotten just long enough to survive. 3,000 years of silence, 16 stone steps, and wonderful things waiting on the other side of the dark. If you want more stories like this, hidden histories, buried secrets, and the moments that shaped the ancient world, subscribe and step through